My name is Merrill Dubrow, CEO of Mark Research and the chair of the MSMR Program Advisory Board at Michigan State. I am really excited to be part of Spartan Insights. Spartan Insights is a series of podcasts that I'll be hosting and interviewing one of the 350 alumni and 60 board members from the Michigan State Marketing Research Program. Today's guest on Spartan Insights is Doug Haley. Doug, the Senior Director of Consumer Insights at Gatorade at PepsiCo. Doug, thank you so much for being a guest on Spartan Insights. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation. Thanks for having me, Merrill.
Absolutely, Doug. Hey, Doug, let's level set a little bit because I know we're meeting for the first time. Just start with a little overview of your career, if you would, for the listeners.
Yeah, for sure. So in college, I was a football player who attempted to get a degree. So I ended up with a history degree. Out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do. And a friend of mine was like, oh, hey, we had this internship at this company I work for. It's a health and wellness trends research company. And I was able to participate in the program and I loved it. It fit so well with what I was good at, what I felt I really learned even with a liberal arts education at the time. And immediately I just fell in love with the insights function. So that was in December of '99, and I have been in insights my entire career. I worked for Health Focus for about 8 years to start out my career. From there, I moved to Barilla, the Italian pasta and sauces company, and all that's here in Chicago, their U.S. offices. And then in 2010, I moved to PepsiCo, where as part of PepsiCo, I worked on the Quaker team for about 6.5, 7 years, and then I moved over to the Gatorade, the sports and fitness business unit, which is Gatorade, Propel, Muscle Milk, PepsiCo sports and fitness brands. So yeah, I have been in the function for over 20 years now, which is wild.
Wow. Amazing. So what position did you play in football?
I was a tight end. I was a tight end. I
Wow.
went to Drake University. Yeah, it was fun. But
You didn't want to play for the, because I always, I played baseball as a kid and I wasn't good enough to play in college, but I always wanted to play left field for the Red Sox. So did you want to play tight end for the, follow Mike Ditka's footsteps for the Chicago Bears, or no?
So my OC in college did call me Ditka because I was my game was more physical than it was finesse. But by the time my junior year rolled around, I realized I wasn't going pro. Not only was I not, I mean, it's the upper echelon. Of course, I dreamed of being the next Ditka, but I was good enough being kind of my own Ditka, right?
That's great. That's great. So, in my career, I've had about 7 jobs. In your career, when you kind of reviewed it, I thought I counted 3. You and I both know graduates of today, they'll have 3 jobs in their first 5 years. Can you talk a little bit about the differences in terms of some of the graduates that are going to come out in May who might want to bounce around about, and maybe some of the benefits for staying and making sure you stay the right amount of time?
I would almost frame it up in the same way the way a brand looks at its own equity, right? You have short term, you have long term. What's right in the short term might not be the best thing for the long term. Because I think there's a lot of excitement when it comes to like, yeah, if I jump companies, I can make a little more money doing this quickly, I can get a new title. What I really gained from sticking with organizations for longer period of time is a level of expertise and trust, right? I became the person people look to, right? Like if you're changing roles every 18 months, you don't have time, especially if you're changing entire companies, right? You don't really have the time to build your level of expertise. You're just kind of building your, like you're kind of checking the box, if I'm going to be honest. Like if we're going to be honest, right? You're saying, oh look, I did this, I just want to go, I just want to go. But what about being great at it? What about becoming an expert in a field? And especially something like insights, it's so important because our job is really about influence, right? Our job is to connect with our peers, to let our leadership know where risks are, where we should place our bets, all of those things. And if you don't have kind of the weight of personality that like, hey, this person's been here and they know it, they've seen it, and we've seen their work, we've seen them influence, they've done all this. When I first came to PepsiCo, it took a good year, a year and a half for me to build that rapport, that trust that kind of personal branding that, hey, Doug is someone we know we can go to for these kind of answers. We know he's someone we can give a project to and he's going to deliver. And if you're at that point and now you're jumping off to somewhere else, you're
Yeah.
restarting that. And so, whereas do I think I would have made a little bit more money and maybe gotten a little bit more of a title faster? Yes, but I don't think I'd be in the seat I am now. Well, I know I would. I know I'm in the seat I'm in now because of the relationships I built internally, because of the trust I was able to build, not just with my peer set, but with leaders. Like it's hard, you don't get in front of leadership very often, especially when you're first starting out in your career. But if you're there a longer period of time, those things become more frequent. And suddenly you become that person that leaders are like, oh yeah, I remember that person from this meeting. They were great. Let's give this project to them. Let's emphasize them. It's the kind of thing that like just has to happen over time. You have to have a little bit of patience in it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of takeaways from there. I mean, we both know that on the client side, Fortune 500 companies, politics can come in to play. Understanding the political environment, and I'm not talking about Democrat and Republican, but understanding the political environment and the workings within a client organization can be really, really challenging, right? And understanding that can be difficult for some folks that are starting out, recent grads starting out in their career. Any advice? I mean, first of all, do you agree with that? And then secondly, if you do, any advice in terms of, somebody who's graduating in May or a recent grad who's listening to this podcast, again, Spartan Insights, that can help them navigate through that, because that's hard. You don't understand the political environment, you're done. Your career is over quickly before it started, right?
Yep. No, for sure. So there's a couple of things I'll say. One is I will say, I think when we hear political environment, we immediately go to a super negative of like, oh, there's these people who believe this and there's these people who believe this. And like, look, if people don't know who you are, it's difficult for them to vouch for you, right? Not difficult, but impossible, right? Like the more connections you make, the more people like, oh yes, I know this person, I know what they're for, I know what they're not for. Okay, like maybe I haven't worked with them directly, but I have that connection, and therefore, like, how can we make this work for them? I think one of the keys as you're starting out is forming honest mentorships with people. And I say honest mentorships because one mistake I have seen is people coming out and just putting meetings on leadership's calendars and just asking them questions that they clearly got online that they're not really interested in. They just want me to know that they set up a meeting with me so that I know who they are. And it's like, no, no. If you seek out a real relationship, like, hey, I just want to understand. And you can tell when someone's listening. You can tell when someone's taking it in and engaging. They'll ask certain questions back to you when you say
Sure.
something. And so building those relationships quickly, again, it has to be honest. It can't, if you're just going to do a check the box thing, that's actually worse because that's one of the political mistakes. It's like, okay, yeah, here's this person who's trying to put on a show for leadership, but in the end, are they really doing the work? I don't know. Whereas when you start building real, true personal connections with people, again, it doesn't have to, when I say personal connections, it doesn't have to be like on like your personal life story, but just a real human connection, just talking about work, talking about industry, talking about your role and leadership and how things work internally. That's when you're going to get other people to open up and help you navigate that system because they know you're just trying to learn too, and they're more likely to be transparent with you.
There's about, I feel like an octopus now for a second, because off of what you just said, there's about 10 tentacles I want to go over. But let's go with this. Obviously, you're very well spoken, a really, really solid communicator, somebody who really, I think, has a deep thought process on lots of subjects. And I think there's just tremendous learning. With that said, if I had to guess, there's some people who mentored you and helped you along the way, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can you just, maybe talk a little bit about those people and what it meant to you and how you got to your career with their assistance and guidance?
Linda Gilbert was the woman who hired me. She was the founder and owner of Health Focus International. And one of the things that she really took, because again, I didn't have like a business degree at the time, right? Well, or to this day either. But, I was just starting out. She saw someone with potential. And what I learned from her was this need of like, it's about working hard, right? There are tools, and like you're going to learn the tools along the way, right? Like you're going to pick that stuff up, but put in the hours, put in the time, and get someone senior to trust you, and they'll open up to you. And when I was in PepsiCo, Linda Lee, so I've had like 6 managers who were Lindas. I'm not even kidding. Linda Gilbert, Linda
Wow.
Klobaka, Linda Lee. There's another Linda in there I'm not thinking of. I apologize in advance, Lindas. But Linda Lee was one of my managers at Quaker, who, what she really helped me identify too is I was someone who was pushy. She influenced me to create like my own personal branding. And she's like, well, I'm your manager and I want you to put together what you stand for and what you do. And as soon as I got finished with it, I was like, it was so helpful to me. It was
Yeah.
so, and she pushed me in a way that I didn't want to be pushed, but she knew it was right. And when I realized at the end, it was for me. It helped me understand what mattered to me, what I wanted, not only what I wanted to do with my life, but when I start hiring people for a larger team, what I expect from them. And what I expect from them isn't just like a photocopy of me. That's not what I'm saying, but like the behaviors that I really value and what I think makes a great insights professional and things like that, and really codifying it. So I've had honestly a series of incredible managers that gave me opportunities and pushed me. Yeah, you have to be able. The one thing I'll say is a mentor can only be valuable to you if you're willing to do what they recommend to you,
Yeah.
even if you don't want to do it. Like again, like you're in a job, you have a manager. Sometimes they're going to tell you to do stuff you don't want to do, and in the end, you realize, man, that was the best thing I could have done. And
Yeah.
so be open to new ideas and new pushes.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like you've had some amazing people that you've worked with and for over your career. So we're going to switch gears just for a smidge, because even though 20 minutes ago we were total strangers, now we're best friends for this
I'm
question.
feeling it too.
Yeah,
I'm
I am feeling it. I am feeling it. So you and I are best friends, and we're outside, and I'm like, Doug, God, I've been working for this company for 5 years, and I've got this new boss. I'm not connecting with them. I don't think they're treating the department fairly. I just think that I'm just having trouble. What's your advice for me?
As I was saying before, so I think the first step, like what I learned, is that personal branding exercise. And whether or not, like, I think when you think of personal branding, it's a lot of the how, but it's also like the goal setting. It's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be?
Sure.
And you're not going to like every manager you have. I will say there's like, I can think of one manager in particular that like I really had struggles with, but
Mhm.
whom I also learned a ton from, because in the struggle, I learned how to manage that, right? Like we had a lot of disagreements, but I forced myself to learn how to connect with this person, to still deliver high quality work and have this person see me for being able to do, like I had to adjust a lot more than they had to adjust to me.
Yeah.
That's simply the relationship of manager to direct report that you kind of have to work through, which can be unfortunate. Be honest with yourself. Are you doing that? Are you committed to doing that? And if you are, it can be a great learning opportunity. And maybe you have been doing. The other part of it is, have you already been doing that and has nothing gotten better? Are you
Yeah.
miserable? Like, are you the kind of, like, I went through a period where every Sunday night I just dreaded going to work, and
Yeah.
it ruined my thing.
Right. When we were growing up, it's working for the weekend,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Not
exactly.
a fun thing to go be around.
Exactly. And so if you're in that struggle, don't go lodge an HR complaint unless it's something like, if it is something like serious, like you are uncomfortable personally, or you
Yeah.
feel like you're being harassed or treated
Yeah.
unfairly based on it, of course, like HR. But I'm saying
Sure.
if you and your manager just don't get along,
Yeah.
and you go complaining to HR, that will hurt you more than it will hurt them. It seems unfortunate, but I'm giving honest advice here, maybe too honest, but like you have to take it on yourself. And if you've been doing all that and it's still not working, it's time. It's time to be like, okay, I have to take myself somewhere else, because as much as we think our careers are everything, like be happy. Be happy.
Yeah.
In the end, like we're kind of
Yeah.
developing things, we're selling things, but like your health, your happiness is everything.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, a couple last questions. The first one is, I'm going to assume that you're hiring at PepsiCo. Is that correct?
Yep.
You're Okay, so congratulations, you got 20 resumes. Can you give a little best practice of, hey, this is what really stands out for me, getting it down from 20 to 5? Let's start with that question. Is there something that gravitates to you in your eye that you really like to see?
For sure. And so when you talk about that first level, you talk about the
Yep.
resume, right? The
Yep.
resume things that are going to pop out on me are like are actions, influences, things that you have influenced change within an organization. The tools that we use, they're just tools, right? And so, it's not enough to say, hey, I have experience in doing these things. Okay, you have experience in using this type of tool, but what did you use that experience to do? How did you grow the business? How did you solve a problem? How did you influence a leader using that information, right? Because that's again what we do. Like, we are not data providers, we are change agents in an organization. And it is up to us to use data, and both numerical data and human data, big data and deep data, to influence our leadership to make the right decisions. And so within a resume, like I said, it's not just checking the box of like, oh great, they know how to use these things. How did they use those things?
Got
And
it.
then I'll like the next level down, I'll even say is in an interview, the personal trait I have the most passion for is intellectual curiosity. Be
Yep.
someone who does more than answer the question. Like, you will be, hey, what about this? If somebody says, hey, where's our brand equity right now? And you come back with a slide that says, here's our brand equity, that's not enough. Like, I asked you the question, like, versus you come back and you say, well, hey, I started to look at our brand equity and then this number popped and it was odd to me. And so I looked into this, which made me go into this. And suddenly I went into the spiral.
Yeah.
And now I have these 15 pages that help me understand. Like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone, because that's what we need to be. Because a lot of times our peers come to us with a very specific question, but like, in order to actually grow the business, we have to think beyond the question they asked us. What problem are we really trying to solve from a business?
Yeah.
And it's usually beyond that single thing they're asking.
Yeah. It's interesting. So don't judge, but on Friday and Sunday, I played in the pickleball tournament, the Texas Open, which had 1,100 people
Wow.
playing in this tournament. It was a big tournament. Actually got bronze on Sunday in the men's doubles. Shout out to Darren Levine, my doubles partner. I call it connecting the dots, right? So here we are with probably arguably the fastest growing sport, definitely in the United States, maybe in North America, maybe even beyond. I don't know. Eventually it's going to be an Olympic sport for sure. But to me, when I looked around and I saw all the sponsors and stuff like that, I didn't see Gatorade, the official drink of pickleball USA, worldwide, whatever. And I like asking those questions and framing it like, is that something that you guys should be attached to? Because first of all, getting in at an early age, when it's maybe 2 or 3 years, 4 years of this sport, do you look at things like that as well?
For sure. And it's a tough thing too, because we do get that question a lot. We get that question of like, how come here and not here? And without getting into like the super details of our budget and how we spend all our money, we do have very large properties. And the fact of the matter is, you have to make choices, right? Like,
Sure.
like in the end, as a marketer, as a spender of a budget, you
Yeah.
have to make choices. And so
Oh, yeah.
while we would happily put Gatorade everywhere, there are some places where other companies outbid us simply because we have to prioritize one area over the other. And that is not an affront to pickleball whatsoever, as much as it's a base reality of
Yeah.
marketing. And it's a key thing to learn early, right? Like, learn marketing mix, learn the parts of your business that are most impacted by the different areas of your marketing spend. Like, those are such crucial drivers of the choices we make in our organization. And we may not like it all the time, but again, that's how you become a key partner, is to be able to say like, hey, I know we really want to do this. This is exciting and this is growing, but this is how much money we make over here.
Yeah.
And then therefore we can't really afford to make this decision right now.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. In closing, Doug, what would you say to the May graduates of the MSMR program at Michigan State? Any advice, last minute parting words that they can really hone in on for many decades to come?
be open, make it personal, make it about relationships. So many of us start off with goals that are very tactical and specific, or like title driven, and I'm not saying that's wrong. Like, obviously it's easy for me to say I'm leading insights for, one of the coolest brands in the world, right? But realistically, it took a long time to get there. And there were some roles I took that I didn't love, but they were necessary. But what
Yeah.
got me through those were the personal relationships I had, like every step along the way. And that's where I was even saying before, Meryl, about like you're in that tough situation with your manager. Like, do you have other people you can lean on? Do you generally enjoy your job, just not your relationship with your manager? Like maybe that's something you can deal with, but like try and make choices. And maybe it's something, maybe I'm being a softie because of COVID and everything we've been through last 2 years too, but it's like
Yeah.
enjoy yourself, right? Like this is all too short for us to like spend 60 hours a week in a job working with people we don't like, just so we can try and be senior manager in 2 years instead of 18 months,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like stop and take a step back, and when you're in it, enjoy it. Like make good personal connections, enjoy yourself. This is a fun job. Have fun with it.
Yeah, I love that word, Doug, enjoy. And that's one of the takeaways from this terrific session with you on Spartan Insights. I really appreciate your time today. You've been listening to Doug from PepsiCo/Gatorade. My name is Merrill Dubrow. Thanks for listening and have a great day, everyone.